Stop scrolling for a second. If you always tell the truth, explain your intentions, and believe honesty will protect you, this is for you. If people take credit for your ideas, cancel on you last minute, cross your boundaries, and you still stay calm because you want to be a good person, understand this, you are not being respected. You are being used. The world does not reward unfiltered honesty. It studies it, and then it exploits it. 500 years ago, Machiavelli warned about this exact weakness. If you are too open, too available, and too easy to read, you become controllable. Stay, because what you are about to hear will change how people treat you forever. You think honesty makes you strong. You think telling the truth at all times proves your character. You think being open shows confidence, but look at your life closely. At work, you share ideas freely, and someone else presents them louder and gets the credit. In relationships, you explain your feelings again and again, hoping clarity will fix disrespect. With friends or family, you say yes even when you are tired, because saying no feels selfish. You call this honesty. But what you are really doing is making yourself easy to read, easy to predict, and easy to use. Right now, people are testing you in small ways. They interrupt you to see if you will stop talking. They cancel plans to see if you will accept it without consequence. They push for answers fast, not because they need them, but because they want control. And most of the time, you give them what they want. Not because you are weak, but because you were trained. You were trained to be polite, to explain yourself, to be transparent, to believe that if your intentions are good, the world will respond fairly. You were taught that honesty is always rewarded, that if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. But nobody taught you how power actually works. Nobody taught you how people really respond to information, vulnerability, and access. 500 years ago, Machiavelli looked at men just like you. Men who believed goodness would protect them. Men who thought sincerity guaranteed respect. And he wrote something that still makes people uncomfortable today. He showed that power does not operate on moral ideals, it operates on perception, timing, and control. He did not ask how the world should be, he described how it is. This video will show you why unfiltered honesty can be dangerous, not in theory, in real life. You will learn how honesty, when given without strategy, weakens your position. You will learn why people lose respect when you overshare, why explaining yourself invites manipulation, and why silence, restraint, and selective truth often create more power than full transparency ever will. Many people will leave this video early, not because it is wrong, but because it challenges the identity they built around being a good person. If you stay, you are not here for comfort. You are here to see clearly. Put your phone face down for a moment and just listen. If this hits you, write "I am the strategist" once in the comments, just to mark the day your mindset changed. Now let's break down the truths you were never taught. First, you need to understand this. People do not respond to honesty. They respond to consequences and perception. When you reveal everything about yourself too early, you remove mystery. When you explain your motives every time you act, you remove authority. Machiavelli observed that men who try too hard to appear virtuous often lose the very influence they seek. Not because virtue is bad, but because displaying it openly signals weakness in competitive environments. Think about work. You tell your manager exactly how hard you worked on a project. You explain every detail, every struggle. You believe transparency will earn appreciation. But what actually happens is this: your effort becomes expected. Your availability becomes assumed, and your value becomes fixed. You gave away information that could have been used strategically. You made yourself predictable. Machiavelli understood that power grows when others are unsure of your limits. When they cannot fully read your intentions, they treat you with caution. Caution creates respect, not fear in the dramatic sense, but restraint. When people restrain themselves around you, you have leverage. Another truth is this: oversharing turns your inner world into public property. When you tell people your doubts, your fears, your plans, and your emotional reactions without filter, you give them tools. Some will use those tools without even realizing it. Others will use them deliberately. You tell a friend you are afraid of being alone. Later, they pull away, knowing you will chase. You tell a colleague you hate conflict. Later, they push boundaries, knowing you will stay quiet. This is not because people are evil. It is because humans respond to incentives. Machiavelli was clear about this. Men act according to advantage. If you make yourself safe to exploit, exploitation becomes easy. Unfiltered honesty removes friction. Friction is what protects you. Friction is the pause before response. The silence after a question, the delayed answer. When you remove friction, others move freely through your boundaries. Another truth you must face is that explaining yourself lowers your status. When you feel the urge to justify every decision, it signals that you seek approval. Machiavelli warned that leaders who appear uncertain invite challenge. The same applies to your daily life. When you over-explain why you said no, you weaken the no. When you defend your choices before they are attacked, you show fear of judgment. Imagine someone asks you to do something you do not want to do. You say yes, then complain later. Or you say no, but explain for 5 minutes. In both cases, you teach them that your boundaries are negotiable. A simple, calm refusal would have been stronger. Power often lies in what you do not say. Machiavelli believed that appearing decisive matters more than being liked. This does not mean being cruel. It means understanding that respect comes from clarity, not confession. The more you speak to be understood, the more you give others space to doubt you. Another truth is that honesty without timing is self-sabotage. Truth is not a moral weapon, it is a tool. Tools require timing. You do not reveal your full strategy before the game begins. Yet many people reveal their intentions before outcomes are secure. You announce plans before progress is made. You share goals before discipline is built. Then when things fail, you feel exposed. Machiavelli advised rulers to act, then explain later if needed, because outcomes silence critics better than words ever can. When you speak too early, you invite interference. People project their fears onto your plans. They question you, they slow you down. Silence protects momentum. There is also this uncomfortable truth. Being completely honest makes you emotionally reactive. When you say everything you feel in the moment, you let emotions drive decisions. Machiavelli respected emotional control. He knew that men who react quickly are easy to manipulate. If someone can predict your reaction, they can guide your behavior. When someone provokes you and you immediately express anger, they learn how to move you. When someone disappoints you and you instantly express hurt, they learn how to control your mood. Restraint breaks this pattern. Silence resets the power dynamic. Another truth is that people test those who are too open. When you make yourself accessible at all times, people push further. Not because they hate you, but because boundaries invite testing. Machiavelli observed that leniency without strength leads to disorder. In personal life, generosity without limits leads to disrespect. You answer messages instantly. You always make time. You always explain. and slowly your time loses value. Scarcity creates worth. When access to you is not automatic, people adjust their behavior. They become more intentional. One more truth you need to understand is that honesty is often confused with authenticity. Being authentic does not mean revealing everything. It means acting in alignment with your values. You can be authentic and still be reserved. You can be real and still be strategic. Machiavelli never argued for lying constantly. He argued for controlling appearance and information. There is a difference between truth and disclosure. Truth is internal. Disclosure is optional. You are not obligated to give everyone access to your inner world. When you protect your inner world, you protect your power. A brief mention of Jung helps here. Jung spoke about the shadow, the parts of you that remain unseen. When you expose everything, you eliminate the shadow. Without a shadow, there is no depth. People sense this instinctively. Depth commands attention. Flat openness does not. Now let's bring this together. If you continue to practice unfiltered honesty, your life will remain readable. People will know how to push you, how to rush you, how to extract emotional labor from you. You will feel tired, misunderstood, and quietly resentful. Not because you are bad, but because you are unprotected. If you apply what Machiavelli taught, something changes. You speak less, but with more weight. You respond slower, but with more control. You stop explaining and start deciding. People begin to pause around you. Tests reduce. Respect increases. You feel calmer, less reactive, less needy. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming difficult to manipulate. This is not about playing games. It is about understanding the game that was always there. Machiavelli was not teaching evil. He was describing reality, the same reality you live in now. You do not owe the world your full truth. You owe yourself clarity and protection. Choose what to reveal. Choose when to speak. Choose silence when words weaken your position. This is how power quietly forms. You learn that honesty without strategy invites use, that oversharing gives others leverage, that explaining yourself lowers authority, that timing matters more than truth alone, that restraint builds respect, that authenticity does not require exposure. Your challenge is simple. Choose one truth that hit you hardest. Apply it today. Speak less. Delay a response. Say no without explanation. Observe what changes. Real power is tested in action, not in thought. If this opened your eyes, you already know what to do. Share this with someone who still believes honesty alone will save them. Subscribe if you want to keep sharpening your mind. And if this hit you, write, "I am the strategist," once in the comments, just to mark the day your mindset changed. At the end, you are no longer angry. You are no longer trying to prove anything. You do not feel the urge to explain yourself, to correct misunderstandings, or to defend your intentions. People speak differently around you now. They pause before asking. They think twice before crossing lines they once ignored. You did not become louder. You did not become cruel. You simply stopped giving away access to your inner world, and that silence changed everything. Before this shift, you believed clarity would save you. You believed if people truly understood you, they would treat you better. You thought honesty was a shield, but clarity only made you visible. And visibility without power makes you a target. Go back a little earlier. This is the moment you first noticed something was wrong. You started to feel drained after conversations that were supposed to be normal. You felt tired after being understood. You noticed that the more you explained, the less people respected your decisions. The more honest you were about your limits, the more those limits were tested. You told yourself you were just surrounded by the wrong people, but the pattern followed you everywhere. At work, you shared ideas openly, thinking teamwork mattered. Someone else spoke with more confidence and took ownership. You stayed quiet because you did not want conflict. You told yourself your integrity would speak for itself. It did not. In relationships, you communicated your feelings clearly, calmly, and often. You explained why certain behavior hurt you. The behavior continued. Sometimes it got worse. Your honesty did not stop disrespect. It trained it. Go back further. You were praised for being easy to work with, for being understanding, for being emotionally intelligent. Those compliments felt good. They felt like proof that you were doing life the right way. But those same traits slowly erased your leverage. People learned that you would adjust, that you would forgive quickly, that you would explain instead of enforce. They learned that your reactions were predictable. Machiavelli understood this pattern long before modern psychology named it. He observed that when people know exactly how you will respond, they stop respecting you. Not because they are evil, but because certainty removes caution. When there is no risk, there is no restraint. Go back even further. You remember the first time you felt guilty for holding back the truth. You wanted to say no, but you explained instead. You wanted to stay silent, but you filled the space with words. You were taught that withholding information was dishonest, that silence meant weakness, that transparency meant strength. No one taught you the difference between truth and disclosure. Truth lives inside you. Disclosure is a choice. You were never obligated to give everyone full access to your thoughts, plans, or emotions, but you did. And each time you did, a small piece of your authority disappeared. Go back to the emotional core. You wanted to be seen as good, reliable, trustworthy. You feared being misunderstood more than being disrespected. So you spoke, you clarified, you justified, and every explanation quietly told the world one thing: that you needed approval. Machiavelli warned that those who seek to be loved at all costs often lose both love and power. Not because love is wrong, but because power requires limits. Without limits, affection turns into entitlement. Go back to the moment that changed everything. It was not dramatic. No confrontation, no betrayal, just a realization. You noticed that the people who commanded respect were not the most honest. They were the most controlled. They spoke less. They revealed less. They did not rush to respond. They let outcomes speak, and people adjusted around them. That observation disturbed you. It went against everything you were taught. But it matched reality, and Machiavelli always chose reality over comfort. You began to experiment quietly. The first change was small. You stopped explaining every decision. When asked why, you answered briefly, or not at all. The world did not collapse. In fact, something strange happened. People listened more closely when you spoke. Your words carried weight because they were rare. Then you delayed responses. Not as a game, but as a boundary. You stopped answering immediately. You gave yourself time. People felt the shift. Some grew uneasy. Others became more respectful. A few disappeared. That told you everything you needed to know. You stopped sharing plans before they were real. You stopped announcing goals. You moved in silence, and without interference, progress became easier. Fewer opinions, fewer doubts planted in your mind. More focus. You also stopped confessing emotions in the heat of the moment. When something upset you, you observed it instead of expressing it instantly. This single change broke old patterns. People could no longer push emotional buttons because the buttons were no longer visible. Machiavelli believed that emotional discipline separates the strategist from the pawn. When reactions are controlled, manipulation fails. Go back to the resistance. At first, this new way felt uncomfortable. Silence felt rude. Restraint felt dishonest. But over time, you realized something important. You were not lying. You were choosing. Choosing what deserved access to you. You noticed your energy returning. You felt calmer, less reactive, less dependent on how others responded. You were no longer trying to manage perceptions through words. You let consistency and action do the work, and slowly people changed how they treated you. They stopped assuming. They stopped pushing. They started asking instead of demanding. You did not demand respect. You created conditions where disrespect no longer worked. This is where the story centers. Not at the beginning, where you were naive. Not at the end, where you are composed. But here, in the shift, in the uncomfortable middle, where you let go of the idea that honesty alone would protect you and accepted that power requires strategy. Machiavelli was never asking you to become cruel. He was asking you to see clearly, to understand that the world responds to behavior, not intention. That people respect what they cannot control. That restraint is not weakness. It is structure. You did not lose your values. You gained boundaries. You did not stop being honest. You stopped being exposed. And that distinction changed your life.